Chapter 1. From the Womb of Oblivion. The Earth rotated behind the research vessel Astralis, almost hidden by the large, barren surface of the moon. Captain Amanda Rawlings, a petite woman with an athletic build, sat at the observation deck, adjusting the ship's internal gravity. Her gaze shifted to the lunar landscape below. Getting ready to return to the dark side of the moon made her homesick, where the view was more than just craters and dust. After 2 months, the dullness of work was starting to get to her. Kurt Hudson, her co-pilot and close friend, called out from the console across the deck. "You should get some sleep." He reclined comfortably in his chair, crossing his long legs and twirling a stylus idly between his fingers. Tousled hair fell over his forehead, and a faint line of stubble traced his jaw. He spoke in an easy tone, as if he had long since learned to ignore the boredom of space. Amanda turned to face him, a tired grin forming over her lips. "You've known me for years. You should know that sleep has never really appealed to me." Kurt laughed and shook his head. "Yeah, I guess I should have known. Back at the academy, you got up at 3 a.m. to get extra drills in, while the rest of us tried to find the cool spot on our pillows. A few of us had to compensate for not being physic whizzes like some people," Amanda lightheartedly answered, her thoughts elsewhere. Kurt was the brainy one, the type of person who could have become anything he wanted. For years, he served as AstroCorps' poster child thanks to his flawless engineering and grip on advanced astrophysics. Amanda, on the other hand, had worked diligently for all of her accomplishments. Nobody had given her the slightest edge. Having grown up in the small, blue-collar town where space travel seemed unattainable, she was the first member of her family to attend college, on a scholarship no less. Her dedication had propelled her to the top of her class, through flight school, and finally to AstroCorps, where she had spent over a decade climbing the ranks. She had experienced more than her fair share of adversity, and at times it seemed as though everything was working to prevent her from reaching the stars. And yet, here she was, one of AstroCorps' top astronauts. The first half of their mission was to study and examine deep space anomalies on the moon's far side. The other half was on a strictly need-to-know basis. At first glance, the task seemed more dull than routine. But Amanda wasn't so sure. The ambiguity of their mission briefing, the confidential reports on unusual solar activity, and the restricted communication with Earth, limited to only a few planned relays, made her uneasy. "What do you think's really going on back home?" Kurt asked, standing up and readjusting his pants. Amanda sighed. "You've been asking the same question since we left Earth's orbit." "And you've been avoiding answering it for just as long," Kurt playfully snorted. She gave a half-hearted shrug. "If they're hiding something, it's above our pay grade. We're just here to do a job." Kurt got out of his chair and gently but firmly placed his hands on Amanda's shoulders. "Right, except that astronauts aren't usually sent to the moon's far side for no purpose." Amanda did not reply straight away. Kurt was right, though. She had the same feeling. Something was off, and she couldn't get the notion out of her head that whatever it was, they were in the thick of it. "I don't know, Kurt," she finally said, lowering her voice. "I just don't like being this far from home when something feels wrong." "Yeah," Kurt said as he walked around the deck. "Me neither." Kurt Hudson had always been a curious soul. Growing up in a well-off family, he had been fascinated with space since he could walk. His father, a highly successful investment banker, had hoped he would follow his footsteps, but Kurt had other plans. While his classmates were building startups or obsessing over the next tech bubble, he spent his time devouring books on astronomy and astrophysics. His brilliance earned him a place at the nation's top school, where he excelled in engineering, making him the perfect candidate for AstroCorps. When he had met Amanda during training, the two had instantly clicked. Amanda's no-nonsense attitude complemented Kurt's laid-back but sharp mind, and they quickly became an inseparable pair. They had gone on several missions together before the Astralis, but nothing quite as mysterious as this. "Well, I guess we'll know soon enough," Kurt said, stretching. "We're supposed to check in with base in about 2 minutes. Amanda nodded, watching as he moved to the comms station. She tried to shake the unease settling over her, but it clung to her like a shadow. The Astralis was about to enter a long communication blackout, as it did every 12 hours. In 2 minutes, they would lose contact with base for the next half day. Kurt flicked on the comms, his voice bright and casual. "Base, this is Astralis, preparing for our next blackout. All systems normal, standing by for last-minute updates." Static crackled over the speakers for a moment before the familiar voice of Mission Control cut through. "Astralis, this is Control. All readings on our end show green. However, we've detected some unusual solar activity that's worth noting. We don't expect it to impact your mission. Keep an eye on your instruments and we'll update you when you're back in range." Amanda sighed. "Copy that." There was a brief pause before Mission Control replied with a slight concern. "There appears to be a sudden flare that's larger than normal, but it shouldn't be anything to worry about. Stay sharp out there. See you on the other side. Control out." The static returned, cutting off any chance of follow-up questions. Kurt glanced back at Amanda. What could be so weird about a solar flare? I mean, they happen all the time. Granted, not as much as they used to, but still. "Not sure, but Control seems shaken up about it," Amanda said. Solar anomalies in recent years had been more frequent, and some of the pre-flight briefings had hinted at solar irregularities that AstroCorps didn't fully understand. That was part of the reason why they got sent up on their current mission. She was about to say something more when the ship jolted, just slightly, like a tremor. Both astronauts froze. "What the heck was that?" Kurt muttered, his hands gripping on the sides of the console. Amanda jumped to her feet, moving to the instrument panel. "Could be turbulence from that flare that Control was telling us about. Check our systems." Kurt scanned the readouts. "All systems are stable. I think we're all right." But before either of them could investigate further, the ship shuddered again, this time harder. Amanda had to brace herself against the flight controls as the Astralis trembled under some intense force. "Amanda," Kurt's voice was tight, a note of fear creeping in. "Something's wrong. The external readings, there's an energy spike." Amanda felt her pulse race as she brought up the external sensors. Her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just the ship. The moon itself seemed to be quaking. Cracks appeared in its surface, small at first but rapidly growing, spreading like fractures in glass. "Kurt, look!" She pointed to the display screen, where the solar flare, far larger than it had any right to be, was now visible. Waves of intense, roiling energy surged from the sun, expanding outward at an impossible speed. And it was headed straight for Earth. She took control of the ship as they tried to shield themselves behind the moon, its thrusters screaming as they tried to push the Astralis clear of the large incoming wave. Amanda's eyes were fixed on the sensor readings, watching in horror as the flare expanded, engulfing the Earth in a matter of seconds. The blue-green planet they had both called home was suddenly consumed by a wall of fire. Time seemed to stretch and slow as they watched the flare tear across Earth, devouring every continent, erasing every familiar place, turning oceans into steam and lives into ash. When the fire faded, there was nothing. No wars, no borders, no struggles, no dreams. Just silence and emptiness where the world had been. Amanda's words stuck between her mind and her lips. "God, no." Kurt stood paralyzed, his eyes darting back and forth as if hoping, somehow, that this was all just a trick of the mind. Desperately, he turned to Amanda, searching for some explanation, something to make sense of what they'd just seen. There was nothing left. The Earth was shattered. Amanda stared, eyes filling with tears, but before she could speak, another wave hit. The Astralis lurched violently as alarms blared, the hull groaning under the sudden strain. The ship's AI calmly warned about their impending doom. Warning, ship hull integrity at 64%. Amanda's instincts took over, and she forced herself to move, pulling up the navigation system. We have to get clear of this now! The Earth was gone. And the sun? The sun had just become something they didn't understand. Amid the ruins of the planet they once called home, something from deep within emerged. A presence, black and cold, its size absolutely enormous. No, a creature beyond description had revealed itself.